This is episode 6 of my podcast, She Unplugged, which is a series of interviews with real life stories. And I'm your host, Anya. And today I have a very special guest with me again, but I'm going to introduce her a little bit later just for you to get an idea of what the podcast is all about. It's about women and men, actually, who are living really their life to the fullest of what is possible at that moment, who have responsibilities and who are really using their energies to live their dreams. In what way, that is always depending on the person. I'm really interested in digging deeper and in getting a gist of what happened to the person to get to where they are now. Yeah, they didn't just wake up one morning and everything was there. So I'm trying to get to real life stories that shaped their lives, that changed their maybe life path, to find out who they are now. And today I have my dear friend Agne with me. Friend / coach / she might be talking about other things too. And we know each other for 7 years now. Is that right?
Yeah.
7 years, 2013. And Agne, I'm going to start by, because I actually don't really like introducing my guests so much. I think they can do that much better than me. What do you do?
Okay, so I've been on a long journey defining what do I do, really. But I think I've come to narrow down what feels really close to my heart. And so what I do is I am an intuitive coach, working with women, helping them restore their confidence and their inner power to live their life to the fullest in any area they feel the need. Because, we all are very multifaceted people, and somebody can be very confident in one area, but really, really feel unworthy and struggle in another. So that's what I help women with. And I say women is because that's primarily who I work with. Although once in a while I do enjoy working with, a man who approaches me for help as well, because confidence is universal. It's not just female. It's both men and women need help with confidence.
Now, why is that topic so dear to your heart? Where does that come from?
Okay, so where it comes from, I've always had sort of a love-hate relationship with confidence. From very early age, I was told, you look confident, oh, you have no problem, you're so confident. And I guess on the outside, it's kind of what I looked like to other people. I'm kind of extroverted. I take a leading role easily. That comes naturally to me. So it appears that I am confident. But I guess same as a lot of other people, I struggled with inner fears. I struggled with feeling unwanted, or worried about, will I be accepted? Will my friends like me if we are going back to like high school, for example? Or, I struggled with, will I be able to achieve this task? When I started my career, when I started my first jobs, and suddenly, you leave university believing that you can do everything, and then you enter your first job and you realize, oh God, I don't know how to do this. Nobody has ever taught me how to do an actual job. I got a whole lot of education as a business student, but nobody tells you have to start somewhere very, very low and do things you have no idea how to do. So and I guess, we'll probably talk about the rest of my journey. But this is this love-hate relationship of appearing confident, but feeling extremely unconfident.
Mm-hmm.
I'm missing a word. Yeah, low in self-confidence and in self-belief, and very hard on myself, being very self-critical, being very going into guilt and shame very quickly, even subconsciously without properly understanding what are the feelings that I'm feeling.
Yeah.
And also at the same time, because of that, failing more than necessary.
Mm-hmm.
That I really didn't need to fail if I had been actually confident, not appeared confident.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so this is where I think I naturally just sort of gravitated towards that, because having gone through this inner struggle of I want to feel the way I look, to others, the way others see me, that's how I want to feel on the inside. And going through the journey to get there, I also realized that my favorite topic to work with, to help people with, is their confidence. I also call it their inner power, to get access to their inner power. And it does not come from, knowing the rules of the game, dressing properly, in your posture, smiling, talking. These can be learned. They're easy to learn. There are plenty of books, there are plenty of I don't know, videos and but it's the inner feeling. It's really just that connection to your true self, and being truthful about who you are, to yourself first, but then to the world as well.
Absolutely. And inner confidence doesn't mean you succeeding in everything, and it doesn't mean you're always coming across as the winner, as the star of the game. At least not in my books. How is it for you? I mean, I think that's probably why women predominantly maybe struggle with self-confidence. But what's your experience? Does it mean you're always winning? You're always on the top of your game?
No, it's actually, in my definition of self-confidence, is actually very much at the core of self-confidence for me is self-kindness.
Oh.
So to me, I feel confident and I feel powerful when, even in the face of failing, of realizing, okay, I had a goal and I'm nowhere near it. I've gone in the wrong direction to achieve the goal. But even in that moment, if you can feel kindness to yourself, if you can feel like, well, I did what I could. If I knew better, I would have done better, but I didn't. But it doesn't, when I do not destroy myself internally, this is where the self-confidence and the power and the self-love comes. And this is what allows me to move forward and enjoy the actual journey of being an entrepreneur and being a coach and being a healer.
Yeah. You used a trigger word, failure. So you have failed before, have you?
I have. I think I've failed many times, and I do pretty much every week.
Every week. Well, we're not going to have time for every week examples, but if you sort of reflect back in terms of not only the biggest failure, but also the biggest failure that maybe taught you the most, or that changed really your life dramatically, what comes to mind?
Okay, so I think the failure that had the most impact on my life, I think now when I look back, I see it as one of the biggest blessings. But this is the result of a very long journey of self-healing. But if I sort of just look at my life, this particular event happened when I was young, when I was 22. So this is 14 years ago. And I entered into a job, sort of, now when I think about it, it was because I wanted, and it's going to sound funny, I wanted my mother's approval. This was a job that was, I started working in an international company, that auditing company.
Mm-hmm.
And this was a job that, my parents could understand. It's really that.
It's the career they had dreamt of.
Not necessarily dreamt, but it was something tangible. It was something that they could understand. It was something that seemed, I guess, stable.
Mm-hmm.
And, like if you get into this field, then you can have a job for life. You're set. You're good. And also because I had really no idea what I wanted to do with my life. I had no idea what job I wanted to do. I had studied business. Business was always very interesting to me. I had been told as a student that I have potential to have a brilliant international career, have the quality. So, there was this whole story and picture in my mind about becoming this amazing corporate executive. Yes, but they didn't really go as planned.
Mm-hmm.
And mostly because I didn't know myself.
Okay.
I really didn't know myself at all, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
So what ended up happening was within about a month of being on the job, for many reasons. One of them was the nature of the job,
Mm-hmm.
which requires for you to be suspicious.
Oh, okay.
As an auditor, you have to.
Yes.
There is a possibility of somebody doing something bad,
Mm-hmm.
or trying to cheat.
Mm-hmm.
I do not have that bone in my body.
Mm.
I cannot be suspicious for no reason.
Okay.
It's kind of like it's really against my nature. Mm-hmm. Another thing is the culture of the company.
Mm-hmm.
It was very much a machinery. They hired a lot of new auditors, and within a couple of years, there was only a fraction left that were sort of moving into team leaders and managers.
Yeah.
The nature of that industry. This is how it is.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't really deal well with being dehumanized.
Okay.
This may sound very harsh, but it's the way it felt. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
Nobody cared how you feel. And it's also, the culture itself was kind of like, let's abuse the first years.
Mm-hmm.
all the shitty work.
Yeah.
So now they have to do it. And that just did not make any sense to me, because why would you, there will be no sustainability.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I guess, in a way, my curse, if you can call it that, was that I have very strong strategic mind.
Mm-hmm.
And what they needed was a very sort of task-oriented thinking. It was not a good match.
So what happened?
So what happened was, within a month, I started feeling like, oh God, I made a mistake. Mm. This is not for me. This is not my company. This is not my career. But at the same time, I was too afraid to quit. It felt like I didn't have the right to quit. I needed a good reason to quit. So, and also because, I was living in a foreign country. I'm originally from Lithuania. At the time, I was living in Holland, in Amsterdam. I needed the money to pay rent. As simple as that. But at the same time, I realized I can't stay here long, because it will crush me. I can't. So I sort of created a reason to leave. So I stayed in the company for a year, and after that, I joined a master's program. Now I know I did it just to leave, mm-hmm. to have a valid reason to quit my job.
Yeah.
And it was, I mean, it was fun. It was good. I loved my colleagues. The program was amazing, but at the same time, it wasn't what I needed.
Mm-hmm.
So what ended up happening is that 1 year of working in a job that was really not compatible with me, plus doing a master's degree where my heart wasn't in it,
Mm-hmm.
I ended up being completely depressed.
Yeah.
To the point where I would not get out of bed for a week or more. And at that time, I realized, okay, this is this is not going away on its own. So I packed my
Did
bag.
you realize it, Agne, or did other
Yeah, I
people
did.
mirror it to
Nobody
you?
told me that.
Okay.
I realized. I mean, I'm a stubborn human being. I asking for help does not come naturally to me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm better. I'm getting better at it every every year. I'm getting better at it. But at the time, because I didn't, I mean, I was too embarrassed
Yeah.
to even talk about what was really going on inside of me. I mean, if I met my friends, I would put a smile on, I would pretend, which is very typical for a lot of people who are going through anxiety and depression. They hide, they mask, and so did I. I mean, I talked to my parents, you know, every few days, once a week. They had no idea what was going on with me.
Well,
So
it is kind of that everything should be okay. You should be happy. You're living abroad. You're living the life that other people are just dreaming of. You have the master degree. You have your friends. It's a cool city. Oh, but why am I not that happy? And then there's that shame coming from that too, Others, what do they, and yeah, I relate to the smile.
yeah, it's and that's the thing. I mean, it's kind of like, well, I don't have the right to
Yeah.
be unhappy.
Yeah,
I have
exactly.
everything, you know, I'm nobody died, thank God, you know, I didn't go through any disasters. It's just it really felt sort of like, and also coming from a post-Soviet country, you know, from a family that was not born of money, you know, that my parents made their life, they worked hard, so it was almost like, well, you're wasting
Mm-hmm.
all the money, all the energy, all the effort that came into basically giving me the opportunities that I was wasting
Yeah.
with this sort of being depressed. I mean, at the time, I really didn't understand that I was depressed. That's the scary part. I just knew that something was really, really wrong. And if I stay on my own, I don't know how this is going to end.
Mm-hmm.
That was the scary thought that sort of really kicked me into like, okay, I need to do something. So what I did was I quit everything. I left the Netherlands and I came back home. I think my parents received a shock when they saw me because, you know, I was good at pretending,
Mm-hmm.
but it was nowhere near, and I couldn't pretend anymore when I got here. So I think for the first week, I probably barely left my bed.
Mm-hmm.
And then slowly things, because the pressure of finding a job, of finding, you know, employment, paying money, paying rent, all this stuff, at least that part was taken
Yeah.
off. So then I could just focus on the internal side of it. And I'm not very good with doctors. So I never really went to any. And I don't think that was the smartest thing to do, but that's what I did. Well, I mean, I did go to a homeopathist that helped me with that. But what I did was I turned to one thing that always worked for me when I faced problems, and that was personal growth and spiritual development.
Mm-hmm.
I've been interested in that since I was 12. I mean, I've read. I didn't join any practice, but I've read a lot of books and I applied a lot of, you know, like sort of new age spiritual principles like the law of attraction and love and forgiveness and cause and effect kind of thing. So it was already in my consciousness, but this really made me realize, well, I have to change something about my life.
So because, I mean, because that happened and you noticed that it wasn't for you back in Holland, the job and the postgrad, and you also saying, and maybe that came, and that helped. I mean, looking at it, maybe you could have gone to a doctor and they would have prescribed some nice medication, you would have felt better. But because you didn't do that, you kind of like went to what you were naturally drawn to.
Yeah.
Is that, you know, and
yeah.
and that then, so that kind of like changed your path in life, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, I had to face the reality that everything I thought I wasn't. I had to grieve my sort of broken identity of, and I guess, you know, I was 25 at the time. But, you know, when I finally got back home and sort of pulled myself out of this super depressed state into semi-normal, to a place where I could start looking for a new job, I realized, well, I had just completely lost everything about myself. And I had to sort of redefine my identity. Because, you know, the failures that happened within those 2 years of working or trying to become an auditor and then doing the master's degree, it showed me all the cracks within what I thought was my personality. And yes, I mean, there are certain qualities that are, you know, are real, so I kept them and they continue to be part of me. But there were a lot of things that I thought I was, and it just turned out, you know, it was a result of certain circumstances or the people telling me things that I wanted to believe or did believe. So yeah, so when I finally sort of went back to thinking rationally, let's put it this way, being able to find solutions. That's when I realized, well, I cannot pretend that things that really matter to me and always matter to me are not important in my job. So that's where I sort of switched sides and went from finance to internal communications. Because it was at least working with people and about people. So that, and it was also creative. So that helped. So for a few years, I worked in several different companies as an internal communication specialist. But still, as it was in a corporate environment, and there's only so much you can do if the management is not really behind some, you know, a real change. And the sort of the cosmetic, let's write a nice article and make everybody happy, it doesn't work. You know, and it actually enrages people even more because they're really unhappy in their job. So, and then as I was sort of struggling through this inner dialogue, I realized, okay, well, I've gone back to the theory of you know, living, I guess, a truthful life and being connected to who I truly am, or trying to become connected to who I truly am. I realized I needed a practice, something to practice, something to sort of tangible. And then my life sort of landed, or my eyes landed on a poster on Facebook, I think, on a sort of event description that had a word soul collage and everything else I don't remember.
Yeah, that it just drew you in. But let me go 2 steps back.
Okay.
Let me ask you that. So with that situation and looking back, what did you learn about yourself? Because you said you needed to kind of like reinvent you. I would actually have challenged that word and said, well, how about you actually needed to reconnect with who you actually always were?
Yeah.
getting to know the real you. So what in that process, I mean, we're talking several years, but what did you learn about yourself where you say, well, this was kind of hidden underneath layers and layers of conditioning and culture and expectations and but now it came out. What was the, like 2-3 points where you say, that's me?
Okay. So what I learned first is that it's okay to fail.
Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah.
I will not die if I fail.
Usually not.
Well, I mean, there are circumstances where that might lead to death, but not in the normal sense,
Yeah.
you know. And because until that time, I had never really failed at anything. I was a great student. I sort of life happened quite easy for me. So I had no idea what it means to truly fail. It's something that, you want to achieve. So that was a big one, really big one.
But that's a nice one. That gives a lot of freedom.
Yes. And I mean, it was a journey. It wasn't like, I suddenly realized, it's okay to fail. So I just keep it. No, it took a much longer time to fully incorporate this understanding. But there's one interesting moment where I remember when I was still working for the auditing company, and at that time I could see that something's not right, and my life's not going right. And I remember talking to myself and thinking, if I had only been allowed to fail as a young person, as a student in high school, as a student in university, if I had only really experienced failure and learned to deal with it, I would feel very different right now.
Yeah.
And it's almost like, it was almost like a manifestation of epic proportions. But, it's kind of like I got my wish. I got to fail dramatically at everything. Everything.
And it didn't, it wasn't the end of your life.
Yeah. Exactly.
I mean,
I didn't die, thankfully. I didn't, I got through it. I got out of it. So that is one thing. Another thing is what I learned is I'm allowed to feel. Feel everything again, the good, the bad, and the great. Because I had no idea what feelings are. I mean, I sort of knew what feelings are, but I couldn't really identify feelings inside of me. So this was a big. It was a big one. It was kind of like this was the beginning of this journey into self-love, into learning to love the feelings that I'm afraid of.
Yeah.
Sadness, anger. Anger was a big one. I had no idea how to feel or express anger whatsoever. Shame, guilt, disappointment, hopelessness, helplessness. All of these feelings, they weren't part of my vocabulary. So allowing myself to feel, that was a huge learning.
Yeah. Let me jump to something now. What happens, because I've experienced that very often when I ask people, so how do you feel right now? The most common answer I'm getting, I don't know. I don't know. Yeah. I'm like, how can you not know? So when clients come to you, when women or men come to you, and we will be looking at what they can actually look at and what topics they can come with to you. But when they come and they say, well, I don't know what I'm feeling. I mean, how do you reconnect somebody to something that's clearly going on? I mean, it's somewhere going on in the body, somewhere. But they've shut it off for whatever reason. How do you reconnect them with that?
Okay. So if it's a very severe case, because
take the severe case.
Okay, people normally have sort of an inkling of at least which direction. But I have worked with, I call it the severe case of no feelings, of being unable to identify and name feelings. What I usually do is I introduce people to, I call them 6 basic feelings. So sadness, anger, fear, and joy. These are the 4 basic ones. Everybody can identify these 4 feelings. I mean, even if you sort of go through the process of elimination, okay, it's definitely not joy. Is it fear? Maybe. Is it anger? Yes, no. Is it sadness? No. I mean, these are sort of like, little children can identify these. And then I always add 2 more, because these are the ones that people usually forget about. And they're the most difficult to name, even for those who are semi-used to like being in touch and being able to feel their feelings. And those ones are shame and guilt. They're also the lowest energy, I mean, if you are in shame or guilt, you are close to not being capable of moving. These are the sort of paralyzing feelings. So people normally are quite afraid of even going in that direction. So what I try to do is by naming them up front, is like giving them permission to say, okay, maybe, it's okay to utter this word. It's okay to like, speak this word, and not be afraid of it.
And also to allow myself to actually, I think for anger, it's one of those things, to allow myself to feel angry, because women and anger, but so I think that's a huge thing, to have that space when they are with you, to feel not only they can then name them, but it's also okay to live all of them. I've kind of like, and you mentioned it at the beginning, I mean, the journey, it continues and continues, and we could talk for a long time, but nowadays you call yourself a spiritual coach.
Yes, intuitive coach.
So the women or the men who come to you, what topics can they bring to you? I mean, with which topics can you help them?
So actually, it's interesting. I work on confidence, but how we come there is very different to each person. So for someone, it may be career. It may be someone who comes to me and says, I really want this job and I'm good at it. I have the qualifications, but something's not connecting. I'm not getting any traction there. Nobody's inviting me for interviews. So we look at why I call myself intuitive coach is because I combine several different things in coaching and other practices. But one of the key tools that I use is a technique called theta healing. So it's an intuitive technique. I connect to the energy of everything that is, to unconditional love, God, the creator, the source, call it whatever you want. And I allow the intuitive sort of promptings to guide the process. Also, the same technique allows me to transform, with permission of my client, to transform the negative beliefs, negative subconscious beliefs.
Okay, stop there, because not everybody might be aware that we have subconscious beliefs.
Okay.
Because I can say I believe whatever, but we both know the subconscious beliefs actually run our lives. Everything else is just an illusion. So how do you actually get to that door where the subconscious beliefs are hiding behind?
Well, interestingly enough, I have two main gateways. So one very, very obvious one is what the person says, not what they mean, but what they say, the exact words they use. Because usually we use sort of like metaphors and certain expressions to say what we mean, but we rarely listen to ourselves actually speak. our subconscious beliefs come out in our speech. You know, a lot of the things called the Freudian slip, kind of like when you want to say something, but you say something completely else, completely different. This is usually your subconscious like slips in and just drops this little hint about a specific topic that is, you know, blocking. So that's one thing. Another thing is, again, through the intuitive process, through the connection of the energy of the creator, I get, well, each person who works with theta healing experience it differently, but I get sort of phrases, sentences. And then through the process of body testing or kinesiology, test, or the person, my client can test if that phrase that I got in my mind or read, we call it reading another person's energy, we can test if that resonates. So it's very interesting because those beliefs that are, you know, either the person speaks or I receive through intuitive process, very often they have nothing in common with what the person believes consciously. But when you allow the body to speak, because the body never lies, and it will tell you yes or no. Yes. When the body speaks for the subconscious mind, because the body has access to direct access to the subconscious mind, you see if it's there or not. And you know, and a lot of people will say, well, I'm learning to love myself. You know, I'm a lot better. I'm doing affirmations. I'm doing this. I'm being kind to myself. I'm giving myself massages every week, you know, booking it. And then when you actually give them a very simple belief, or actually to test physically using your body, it's a belief, I love myself, one, and I hate myself, a second belief. If they haven't done any serious sort of subconscious belief work, probably 90% of people, if not more, will test no for I love myself, and then yes for I hate myself.
I think that needs to just simmer sort of a little bit in the air, because 90% or more actually unconsciously hate themselves. And which means, I mean, and that is actually then where the problems come. They kind of like unconsciously, so not really like, I want to sabotage my life now because I hate, no, but unconsciously they sabotage their life. So in the example you gave, the woman doesn't get the job. She doesn't know why, but she doesn't get the job.
Yeah.
Because somehow her body does something which kind of results in, no, I didn't get it. And it's always that confirmation.
Yeah.
I hate myself. I didn't even get the job.
Yeah, and it's also, you know, we can go into this topic for like days, not
weeks.
But especially with like career, for example, success, like this sort of very worldly success of career or finances or this kind of thing. A lot of the sort of subconscious beliefs, they are stories that landed without really us thinking about it, that landed in our subconscious mind until the age of 8, where it's like a child's mind, subconscious is fully open. There's no filter. So everything he or she hears will just land there.
Yeah.
And, you know, maybe a parent said, oh, money doesn't grow on trees, or you have to work really hard, or, you know, we don't come from this kind of family, you know, this like posh life or this easy life is not for us. Office work is not for us. You have to work hard and in, I don't know, in the fields or some sort.
You can't have it all.
You can't have it all.
That's another one.
I mean, we can go into this crazy things of like either, I mean, okay, it's not even that crazy. A lot of people consciously think this is the way it is. Career or family.
Yes.
Being a
especially
mother,
women.
being a career. Yeah, for women, I mean, this is one of the big ones. Working with mothers, working with the guilt they have to get out of in order to feel successful and to allow them to feel successful.
Yeah.
And also, yeah, I mean, it's for me, this is incredibly interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And I absolutely love seeing the surprises mind presents to us in every single session. Even if I've worked with someone for a long time,
Yeah.
you know, every single session is still a surprise. And I love that sort of sense of anticipation of like, okay, let's see what you know, what we've got today.
Exactly. It's kind of like, let's see what layer of the onion we can peel off today.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's, so, I mean, we touched on, so it can be job related, but it can also be family related. You know, how does the family life work? Why are there always conflicts? It can be health related. You know, so is there, I mean, simple question, is there any topic that can't be looked at?
No, not really.
Good answer.
Actually, no. I mean, any topic, because every person comes with a specific problem or a topic. And to be honest, they don't really care how we get the result, as long as we do get the results.
Mm-hmm.
Depending on the topic and depending on the severity of the problems, or, you know, how deep and how complicated everything, because I often see that, well, okay, I always see that every person has this sort of like, I call it, it's almost like a spiritual knot of thing. And it shows up in sort of in one area of their lives usually, or it blows up in one area of their lives. And it can be finances or personal relationships or health or career or success. Or I mean, these are sort of like the big chunks. Body image, that's a big one. Weight and all sorts of eating disorders. That's another one where it's usually in those situations, it's like things that got, there are so many things entangled in what seems like a singular problem. But when you go into the subconscious aspect of things, you realize it's so branched out. And it's really, like you said, it's kind of an onion. You start peeling layers and layers, and, you know, there are individual personal life layers. And then we go into, family stories. Yeah. We call it the genetic level. Then we go into history level, which is, past lives or soul's experience or imprints in the collective consciousness that somehow are affecting that person in particular. And certain soul experiences that get sort of branded inside of us. So these are very, very multi-layered, and some of the sessions are actually quite sort of fantasy-like a little bit, because sometimes we go into very sort of spiritual, we could probably even call it esoteric topics, and also very existential topics like life and death. Yeah. And our relationship and connection and fear of life and fear of death. They're basically one and the same. They just manifest themselves.
Yeah, it's just a different way to look at the same thing. Yeah. Does somebody who wants to experience it, do they have to have a, how shall I say that? Because you went into the different layers, and for some people it might be, okay, yeah, my family, okay, genetic, okay, history, okay. But then it starts to get a bit difficult for some people to handle it. Is there a presupposition where you say, well, if you don't come with a certain belief or openness, we can't work on that topic?
Okay, so in general, the only assumption or the only sort of criteria a person needs to have is being open to the possibility that there is more than just what you can feel and touch. It doesn't need to be a specific sort of belief like, oh yes, you have to believe in past lives, this and that. No, it's just kind of like, okay, I have no idea what is out there, but there probably is something more, some sort of energy, some sort of consciousness, some kind of, it can be, a specific religious, manifestation in the sense Jesus or Allah or Buddha or any of the other, deities that we pray as human beings to. It's, as long as you're open to a possibility.
I think
There's
that's really nice way of putting it. Being open to the possibility. I'm not saying I agree or I disagree.
Yeah.
I think I'm just open, and it's the same when you go into those belief systems that stop us. It's not to say, yeah, that's exactly it, or no. I'm open to the possibility that there might be some hidden story, and I'm willing to look at it.
Yeah.
And I think then the process is actually doing its own magic.
Yeah. Yeah, I think what's also really, really important is that whoever decides to embark on the process with me or anyone else who does similar work, because there are amazing people who do similar work to me, is that you really want to heal. Because this is not something, this isn't for fun. I mean, having a session, yes, it can be fun, but if you really want to change, then you need to be willing to really change, because this process is very transformative. And I am lucky in a way, lucky, or maybe, I've worked through enough of my own subconscious beliefs that I get the pleasure of working with people who are very open to their own inner transformation, because I'm just a facilitator. I don't do anything. The person needs to be willing to accept the transformation. And then, I see amazing results for my clients, and I get to be happy for them. So.
Yeah, I think they are happy too. And I mean, that kind of like goes back to the beginning, where it is for you about that women can bring that's how you said it, amazing gifts and potential to the world, and to live their life actually in truth to what's really true to them. Not maybe what other people expected of them, but to that, no, that's me. Whatever that means, and with all the edges, but that's me. And I think that's a beautiful kind of vision to help women on that path.
Yeah, because I think there's nothing more beautiful than a woman, and actually any person, fully embodying their true self.
Yeah.
Actually, it's interesting, because a lot of people understand being true to myself as showing the darker side of yourself. But it's actually, being your true self is showing the most beautiful side of yourself. Because the darker side of it, it's kind of like, we all have some things we don't like about ourselves, but they are just a tiny piece. But we're so focused on, and so used to focusing on the critical side. On this is bad, I have to fix this, I don't like this quality, I have to hide it, I have to, I have to sort of somehow pretend to be something that I'm not. But actually, if you are fully who you are, then all these little bits and pieces of sort of, shadow, or, trauma or pain, or because, every quality we don't like has a source in some sort of pain somewhere. That, the moment you heal it, and every emotion is welcome, every emotion, every feeling is welcome. We need all of them. We can't take half the feelings, and I don't want to feel bad feelings. I just feel the nice ones. Well, it doesn't work that way. You either feel them all, or you don't feel anything. And being numb sucks. Sorry.
No, but it's
a horrible experience.
Yeah, it's all or nothing. It's really one of those things, and through all of that, showing all of you, being kind to yourself. That's what you said earlier, being kind to yourself. and not going in there with the, with a pair of glasses to see, that part, the critic in me, and to be, I think we're very good at being critical, and I would even say sometimes nasty to ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and that's what the nice thing about your work is. It's not about not being any of that, but it's embodying everything.
Yeah.
And just embracing it and saying, well, this is who I am.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And this is one of the aspects that I absolutely love in my work, is that I get to be loving to my clients. What I said before, that as an auditor you have to be suspicious of people, of somebody doing something wrong. I don't have to. Actually, I get to be the opposite.
Yes.
I get to be this, the positive, empowering voice.
Yeah.
To my clients. And yes, sometimes I have to be a bit blunt just to get through some
yes, I do know.
telling themselves for a long time.
Yeah.
But I always do it with a lot of love. And I've been blessed with clients that appreciate and understand it. And it's often usually if the bluntness is necessary, then it comes from a place of their ego really playing it up and sort of putting up a fight against the transformation that is super necessary.
Mm-hmm.
And it's sort of, these are usually the last sort of like moments before a really big transformation, a big breakthrough. Then it's kind of like an ego often throws a tantrum into the mix. And, I have to lovingly sort of, diffuse it. Lovingly and bluntly often diffuse it.
Yes. And this is, yeah, it's the lovingly also accepting the ego coming and knocking on the door and actually just naming it. I think the point of just, hello, ego, how are you doing today? Having a bit of a bad time.
Yeah, and I get to do the same thing for me as well, because I can't work with others if I'm not working on myself. I think that would be a real disservice to people. So I get to have fun at myself when I recognize, like, oh, okay, I'm going on an ego trip here. But yeah, it's I think that is another thing that I've really sort of discovered in a way. It's the humor of life, of subconscious mind, of how brilliant it is at creating such elaborate schemes just to keep us protected. Because that's the purpose of subconscious mind, to keep you safe, alive, and protected. And it does not necessarily mean the same thing as what you think it is. Sometimes it comes from very sort of ancient, very instinctive places. So it's an amazing world to live in, for me, and working with other people and helping them through the labyrinth, the maze of their own subconscious mind.
That's beautiful. Just to kind of like finish it, is there anything that still needs saying? Is there a question that I should have asked and I didn't? Is there something you would like to repeat, to stress?
I don't think, I feel like I've talked a lot and I've shared a lot. And thank you, really thank you for being there and for asking these questions from me and allowing me to express my passion. And tell a little bit about my story, my failures, and how it it led me to finding my passion. But what I really would like to wish, to send out into the world, is the idea of self-kindness. And if it's really difficult for people to grasp, what is it to be kind to yourself? How about just starting at being nice to yourself? We all know how to be nice to other people.
Yeah.
So if we can do the same things for ourselves, just starting with that, just being nice, just catching yourself, even just once or twice a day, and being, nasty to yourself in your inner dialogue, stopping yourself in that, and finding something nice to say about yourself to yourself. I think that is what I would wish for absolutely everyone, because there cannot be more kindness. There cannot be enough kindness. There can always be more. It's never too much kindness for yourself or for others. And kindness doesn't mean stupidity.
Yes, and it's not like there's only a limited amount of it. And if somebody else uses more, there's nothing. I mean, kindness and love is one of those things. They are unlimited, and that's actually a nice ritual to do on a daily basis. Some place to start, to be self-aware. Oh, I just beat myself over the head. Oh, I just made a critical comment about the way I look, or whatever, and then to stop myself and kindly find something nice about the situation, how I behaved, about me as a person, just somehow. And even if it's just sort of the saying, well done, you've noticed. Bit late, but you've noticed. That's the first step to be kind and forgiving.
Or at least moving towards self-forgiveness.
Yes,
it's not easy.
Yes, I mean, at least somehow to make a start and to say, okay, well, I messed that one up, but that with kindness, that's the way of looking at it. Agne, thank you so very, very much for talking to me. I mean, we could talk forever, and I think we will have a feeling that we might want to go back and, for example, explain what soul collage is. We slid the word in and it disappeared into another question, because that's also something beautiful we both share. So thank you very much to share some honest truth about yourself, about your path, which not always was easy, about the learnings you kind of picked on the way and made you to the amazing person you are today.
Well, thank you. And thank you for giving me this opportunity to share a little bit of myself.
You're very welcome.